Good morning. Today is the 28th of Adar Aleph, Koyak Adar, March 8th. Okay, guys, remember a long time ago, like 2 days ago, when we were talking about the commandment or the obligation to hate someone who's sinning? Can you believe that? Can't believe we even said that. In today's lesson, even people who the Torah says to hate should be loved. Exclamation mark. Guys, David Klein is here. וגם המקורבים אליו שהכריחם ולא ישובו מעווניהם שמצווה לשנאם מצווה לאהבם גם כן. Look at this. Even those who the Talmud, the Torah tells us to hate, if they qualify, okay? You have to go back to yesterday and 2 days ago to get to that point, which it's almost impossible. But if you do, they're so close to him and he's rebuked them, but they still have not done Shuvah, and they continue to do these evil things. And once they don't listen to you anymore, now you're obligated to love them too. So you still have to hate them for whatever. But again, that's only if they qualify. If all the boxes are checked off, you grew up with them, you understand them, you learn with them, you dive with them, you know exactly how you're intimately involved with him in his family life, in his personal life, in his business life, in his Torah life. Your best friend. What? And you can't hate him if he's your best friend. But if he's sinning against Torah, so you're hating him because that's the obligation. I mean, again, it's so far-fetched, it's nearly impossible. But if, then you still have to love him if he's not listening to you. So here it says, it is impossible to love a person and hate him at the same time. How could you do something like that? So the Alter explains that since the love and the hatred stem from two different causes, they do not conflict. Both of them can be true. How? The hatred comes from the evil that they are exuding or lashing out with, right? They're acting out in whatever way it is, and that's the part that you hate. So what do you hate? The person's actions. What do you love? The essence of the person that's really and always will be a portion of Hashem with the soul, and imagine, a lot of times it's maybe a good example. I don't know if this is a sore point for some people. It probably is. But when someone gets divorced, if they had children with somebody else, then they go, the ex, they say, I despise the person. Maybe the actions, that's not the person I married. We went out, it was so wonderful and everything else. And she's the mother or he's the father of my children. Obviously, I love my children. Intrinsically, the essence of who the person is, the soul of the person is a good person, but the actions just became intolerable and despicable. And I can't stand the exterior of the person, but the internal part, the essence of who the person is, the neshama. So it's almost like, if you could say it in simple terms, it's we hate the actions of the person, but we love the internal aspect of the person, which is the essence of the neshama, the pure untainted person, which is the neshama of the person. One may now be faced with the anomaly of a fellow Jew with whom he has to love and hate at the same time. But what would the attitude be towards the person as a whole who possesses both these aspects of good and evil? When, for example, the sinner requests a favor of him, should his hatred dictate his response or his love? See, the Alter goes on to say that one's relationship with the sinner as a whole should be guided by love. By arousing one's compassion for him, again, this is a best friend, and he's doing something that's wrong, not necessarily to you. But by arousing compassion for him, one restricts one's own hatred. You rise above the hatred and you have compassion for him, Rachmanis, that he can't overcome this terrible sin. He's stuck in this addiction or this trap of the Yetzer Hara. And by arousing one's compassion, one restricts one's hatred so that it's directed solely at the evil. Any hatred that he has is directed at the evil and not at the person himself. Who's the person himself? The essence of the person, the neshama. As we said before, the soul is a part of God, was around forever because it's a portion of Hashem, will be around forever even after the person passes on. So what's the neshama being housed in the physical body that's here for a number of years, God willing, 120. But that's the external factors of the essence of who the true person is. He has to arouse compassion on the divine soul of the sinner because the soul is in galus within the body, just like all the Jewish people today are still in galus. So too the neshama. If a person does something bad, it's the physical body that's pulling the soul, literally pulling Hashem with him into a very dark place. So you have compassion on the spark of God within the person and say, Nebuch, that it's being pulled into a dark place. By the way, often that's ourselves. We can look in the mirror and have Rachmanus on our neshama that's being pulled into a very dark place. In your mind, you could be sitting in shul, in tefillin, in davening, and you're in a very dark place, right? So we have Rachmanus on our soul. We try to pull him out of it. Where is he? He's in the evil and Sitra Achra, Hagoyver Aleh, Rishoyim, which when it comes to people that can't control themselves, they are dominated by sinful thoughts, evil thoughts, by jealousy, by anger, by lustful thoughts. So what do we do? Compassion, feeling bad for your neshama or for the other person's neshama that he's not on the right path. He's not doing good, at least externally. So you have rachmanis for him, and automatically that banishes the hatred and arouses love. As is known from the verse, Yaakov who redeemed Avram. Why is this verse compassion redeems and arouses the love? Compassion banishes hatred and arouses love. Why? Because Yaakov represents Tiferes, compassion. Avram represents Chesed, love. So when Avram, love, must be redeemed, it has to be out of concealment, and it is Yaakov, compassion, that accomplishes this redemption. For as it said, compassion banishes hatred and arouses love. No, the Rebbe's approach, and I'm going to mention this on Shabbos as well, was going back from the Rebbe Marash, L'chatchila riber. What does L'chatchila riber mean? He says, some people say that when you have an obstacle, you either go around it or under it. But I say, go over it. If you can't, let me back up. The expression is, if you can't get under it or around it, then go over it. So the Rebbe Marash and the Rebbe Rashab and the Frierdiker Rebbe, the Rebbe would repeat it many times and say, no, I say, L'chatchila, go over it. L'chatchila ariber. From the beginning, leap over it. So when it comes to Sur Meirav Aseh Tov and the davening, so that's the conventional way to do it. That's how our sages taught us, and for thousands of years, that's the way they did it. But once you start getting involved in removing the bad, you're like, but what if I didn't remove all the bad? And you're so involved in the bad that you haven't had a chance to get to the good. The Rebbe says, start with the good and automatically the bad will disappear. So instead of worrying about like, oh, okay, how do I get these evil thoughts out of my head? Stop. Say Shema, think good thoughts, dance in the morning, it's Adar, right? If you go into the dark room, instead of worrying about how to remove the darkness, just light a flame and the whole room becomes illuminated and bright. So that's why it's Yaakov. Bring in the Yaakov, the compassion, and then the hatred will automatically disappear and the love will shine through. Instead of trying to figure out how do I get rid of the hatred? No, bring in the compassion. That's how you do it. Not trying to remove the other thing. You're going to be stuck if you start. Sometimes if you're so worried about removing all the schmutz, you're going to get filthy and dirty and stuck in the mud. So instead, we're going to do good, and then automatically the schmutz will wash away. It's a completely different approach. We said this in class the other night, and we were talking about also the way the Rebbe's approach to giving tzedakah. He said, oftentimes we look, how much do I have to give? The whole idea of tzedakah is that the person who's needing the money gets what he needs. Okay, we have an obligation to fulfill, to give a certain amount of tzedakah. So if somebody comes to you and puts out his hand, he may say, okay, I need a certain amount of money. He's like, well, I already gave almost 10%, so let me calculate how much more I have to give Meister for the year, and then I'm good. So here it is, and I guess, that's it. $1, $2, the guy comes last Friday, right? We have Meiser, then we have Chaimish, we can give a little bit more, we can give a fifth. But then if somebody's very wealthy, he could live simply and give away a lot more than 20%, and 30%, and even you can give 50% if he's a multimillionaire, he can live in a simple home, and he can keep giving tremendous amount of tzedakah. But if that's the approach from how much am I giving, then it's limited. But the Rebbe says, let's go look at it the other way around. Not how much I need to give, but how much is needed for the other person. Then it's limitless giving tzedakah. I'm going to give whatever I can give. And if that's not enough, I'm going to tell Charlie to give, and I'm going to tell John to give, and I'm going to tell David to give. And the guy's going to get what he needs, because it's not how much I need to give based on a calculation like that. It's not what do I need, meaning my mitzvah to be fulfilled. It's what is needed. What am I needed for? And that's the standard approach also to doing a mitzvah. Not how do I do, but what do I need, but what am I needed for? Our mission in life in general. So Baruch Hashem, by the way, I just want to tell you that at the end of that class, and we referenced the roof, the way the Rebbe sent the shluchim out wasn't establish a community and make sure there's a certain amount of funds and there's a well-established infrastructure, and then go out there and then they'll pay you a good salary and you'll be taken care of because we don't want you to stress. It was almost the opposite. Go out there, do pulas, get people to do mitzvahs. Then as they come, you'll start establishing the community. It's like a backwards way of doing things. And I was just, I don't know why, but I just used the roof as an example. It's like, okay, let's get all the money and then we'll start fixing the roof. No, let's start working on the roof and it'll come in. It's just sort of a little bit backwards. So after the class, someone reached out to my wife and she said, I want to pay for the roof. Now, it wasn't the whole thing. You still need to go, a ways to go, but it was a very substantial, it was almost half of what we need. So you know the amount because it's in writing. So I'm paying for half the roof. She was in the class, she says, I'm paying for half of it. Or no, she didn't say she wanted to pay for the whole thing. She didn't realize, the scope of it. She thought it was much less. But it was a tremendous, tremendous boost. And she said, we're reading with Chatchila River. I'm going to be learning this stuff and taking it to heart. I was thinking that, I'm in a good position. I want to help. Instead of starting to calculate and everything else, I know that it's needed. Boom, here, take it. So this is the way that a person should give. Also, who did I say? I think it was either I told that story in the class, but I think it was one of the, yes, I told the story in the class. One of the first people that passed away from COVID, it was a guy who used to come around here probably once or twice a year collecting. Big beard, Russian hat. You may remember him, big wide smile, rosy cheeks. And one of the first times he came around collecting, I said we were just doing the building campaign. It was in the old shul. And I said, I'm also collecting. Like, I was like, I didn't want to give money because I was also collecting. So he said, if somebody puts out their hand, you have to give him. If you come to my shul, I have to give you. Right now, I'm putting my hand out to you. Your obligation is to give. And it was a very big lesson. I remember that. So when people come around, instead of like, oh, I wonder if it's legit. I wonder what he's spending on. I know this is a complicated subject. You go by the tunnel and people are getting money. What are they spending it on? Alcohol, drugs, whatever. But instead of doing a whole calculation about yourself and how much you'll give, of course, we're talking about legitimate and everything else. If somebody is needy for Pesach and, somebody comes to you, I know this family, they're trying to make Pesach, well, yeah, how much do they need? Okay, here, take this. And you know what? That's as much as I can have right now. I'll have all the cash in my pocket. It's not just about the tzedakah. It's about the intention behind it. It's not making a personal calculation. It's what's needed. And that's the whole approach in life. We have to jump head first over the top. As for the statement of King David, peace upon him, I hate them with a consummate hatred. What are we talking about here? Reserving no love for them whatsoever. This refers only to the Jewish heretics and atheists who have no part of in the land in Hashem and Israel. Any sinner who is not, however, a heretic must not be hated with a consummate hatred, for the mitzvah of Avos Yisrael embraces him as well. It's a calculated and measured. It's a calculated and measured hatred towards the action, but not, God forbid, at the essence of the person who is intrinsically connected to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Now, the takeaway for today, Chabra, is you might even have reasons, according to the Torah, to feel resentment about a fellow. Nonetheless, be a student of Hillel, love every Jew, and try to bring every Yid back to Torah mitzvahs. And as to the hatred and concern, keep it limited only to his actions and faults. He himself is Chelek Elikami Mal Mamish. Everyone have a wonderful Shabbos. Next time we see you, it will be Rosh Chodesh Adar, which is Sunday and Monday. Until then, have a wonderful Shabbos, Mevarchim, and all the best.